Brought to you by Penguin.
Seven Myths About Money and the Truth About Finding Financial Freedom. Written and read by me, Rob Dix. Introduction. What if everything you've been told about money is wrong? Introduction. New game, new rules. It might not always feel like it, but you're lucky enough to be living through the best period in human history. From the evolution of the first modern humans 300,000 years ago until literally the last few centuries, mere survival was considered an A+ result. If you managed to work brutally hard every day from childhood until you died of old age, without famine, rampant disease or war wiping you out before you got there, you'd have been one of the world's winners. If you were outlived by more than half of your children, you'd have lived a charmed life indeed. Fast forward to today, and life is better than ever in just about every way. You're less likely to die of disease, as illnesses that once would have been a death sentence are now treatable. You own a magical device that can instantaneously distract you with the world's accumulated knowledge and allow you to maintain relationships with friends all over the world. You might be listening to this book on a wireless speaker that's nestled in your ear as you're whisked in relative comfort across great distances. Yet, there's one area in which life isn't better for the average person than ever before: money. If you'd graduated high school in the 1960s, you could have walked straight into a professional career, with no university degree and resultant student debt required. A single earner could support a typical family, and by saving up 4 years' salary, you could buy a typical home. You would have gone on to live through a period in which any assets you owned, including your home, rocketed in value. And, as if that weren't enough, you might have retired with a pension linked to your final salary, regardless of how well financial markets had performed. Merely by following the herd from school to workplace and copying the financial habits of your peers, it was possible to live a comfortable financial life. Not anymore. By following the default choices now, you might find yourself at university, driven not by a deep desire to learn, but because it's the only way into most jobs, and then leave with debt that it takes most of your working life to pay off. You then find that you need 2 salaries to support your family, and you can't afford to buy a home until you're well into your 30s. If you want to retire in comfort, then you need to save hard to make investments, while also saving to buy that expensive house, and cross your fingers. If you're not able to retire, at least you won't be alone. At the time of writing, the number of over 70s in the workforce in the UK has increased by 61% over the past 10 years. And in the US, it's expected to grow by another 96% in the next 5 years. Across Europe, the share of workers aged 55 years or older increased from 12% to 20% between 2004 and 2019. Yes, your life will still be better than those of your ancestors by many metrics, but money touches all the metrics that are left over. If you're doing worse financially, it's going to hurt. The year that changed everything. Why are things so different now from half a century ago? The beginnings of our answer can be found on one of my favourite websites, WTFhappenedin1971.com. Started as a joke by a couple of anonymous social media accounts, WTF Happened in 1971 collates graphs and charts pointing to a surprisingly widespread set of financial and social changes that started in the early 1970s. Now, though, the collection have grown to a point where it's not funny, and is actually rather disturbing. It shows that, up until 1971, productivity growth and worker compensation moved in line with each other in most of the rich world, suggesting that people were benefiting from the gains generated by new technology and more efficient working practices. From then onwards, productivity continued to grow, but wages stagnated. The gains were going elsewhere. It also shows that inequality, as measured by the gap between the richest 5% and the bottom 20%, had been roughly the same for decades. Until 1971, that is. After that point, a yawning chasm began to open. The richest got richer, and everyone else was left.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?